Italian dad finds an old radio. He says, I love it, I wanna make it go. The wife says, honey, dinner's getting cold. Oh, oh, oh. And this dad realizes something's off. There's a strange voice coming from the box that warns him he's gonna hear us. Oh, oh, oh. He turns it off and on. Oh, oh, oh. The ghost attacks him because horror killed a radio star. Horror killed the radio star. A bunch of jump scares don't really help when your movie's only a short concept. And man, these accents were really daft. Oh, 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 oh. But then we go to somewhere in the U.S. where Emma and Seba receive a strange call of distress from Emma's mom, and she says, I've got to go back to Italy because horror killed the radio star, cause horror killed the radio star. A bunch of weird things happen and the plot is really easy to figure out because there isn't a lot of great depth to this. Sound of Silence was written and directed by a group of people called T3, not to be confused with Team 3D. No Devon or Bubba Bippity Boppity Boopity get the tables. Boy, that's going to guarantee nobody's going to like this review. That was really goddamn ridiculous. But yes, a group called T3. They're Italian. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce their names. But basically, the cast is filled with Italian names. And the way they did the English here actually kind of reminded me of Devilfish, the story of Alistair Crappie. You're a non-MST3K fan, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But basically, a dad ends up hearing a strange voice from a radio. Be quiet, he's going to hear us. And a strange thing happens that necessitates Emma and Seba, her boyfriend, coming back to Italy. And basically, we get the story of trying to figure out why the dad ended up attacking the mother. And then we find out that there's something really sinister going on with this radio that people keep playing with. You know, that could have actually solved the whole movie if you just turned the radio off and said, let's just put the radio out there. Just put it out there and let somebody else take it. Unfortunately, they don't do that, and we wouldn't have had an actual movie if they had decided to do that. So this group called T3, not Rise of the Machines, by the way, did a movie called You Die and also Sound of Silence, the short version. That's pretty much it right there. So basically what this movie ends up being is a series of jump scares with some good atmosphere and not a lot else. It ends up having acting that isn't particularly horrible, but isn't particularly great. And it has a very simple story that really doesn't have anything surprising to it. It's dark for the sake of dark, and that goes for the daytime scenes. I mean, the daytime scenes is like, good God, it's like, did they forget the sun actually exists? I understand wanting to do atmosphere and wanting to provide some scary, spoopy imagery, but the nighttime scenes, good God, I'm like watching this, I go, this isn't atmospheric. I think they forgot to pay the goddamn electrical bill. This movie has a couple neat little ideas, but you know when it lost me? About 30 minutes in, and I will explain why. They do a scene with the dad, turn the radio on, turn the radio off, and the ghost appears when the radio's on, and then disappears when the radio's off, and then the ghost attacks. And then later, when Emma talks to her mom and her mom tells her not to go to the house, of course, naturally, her and her boyfriend go to the house. Because why the hell wouldn't you? Because otherwise you wouldn't have a movie. The radio's not going to suddenly grow legs like that one invention in The Simpsons where, oh, let's see if your leg's still working. Why? No, you don't. Anyway, basically they go to the house. She plays with the radio at one point, and the ghost appears when it's on and disappears when it's off. They repeat the same scene. And that is where I realized that this movie probably was better as a short film concept, and while, again, has a couple neat little ideas, and the actress who plays Emma is quite attractive, there isn't anything else to this. At all. It's not the worst thing I've seen, but it's such wasted potential of an okay execution. But the fact is when you make your scenes dark just for the sake of it, and when you basically rely on jump scares, bong, 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 and you just keep doing that over and over, that doesn't make your movie good. Now, maybe this translated better in Italy. I don't know. Italian horror is certainly different, but this it just wasn't good. And any halfway cool scene they could have done, anytime they tried to do something cool, basically, is what I'm trying to say, it didn't click. It just didn't, because the rug got pulled out from under it. And also, it had its climax, so to speak, way too quickly, and then ends up having to have some kind of epilogue scene, so to speak. But I'll get into spoilers when I talk about that. The movie, it's not good. It's not good at all, and it's disappointing because there was potential here. Like, the directors / writers all seem to understand, the concept of horror, just not how to execute it. Because this oftentimes was lazy, and the way, they had the ghosts disappear and appear and stuff like that, and yes, there are ghosts, obviously. Otherwise, what would a haunted radio be doing in something that didn't have anything to do with actual ghosts? The special effects aren't necessarily bad, but it's lazy. The lazy execution ultimately kills it, and the fact they repeat some scenes, and the fact that, honestly, this movie really doesn't have any discernible characters worth rooting for. It really doesn't. The idea isn't awful, it's just bad execution. That's really all I have to say. I'm going to get into spoilers. It's available for a few bucks on Amazon. I certainly didn't mind paying for it. Let's support the artist by actually renting the movies and making sure they can make better stuff going forward. Or just as good. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Honestly, support the artist. That's what you're supposed to do. So yeah, the opening scene has a dad turn on the radio, turn off the radio, turn on the radio, turn off the radio, and bah! And then the mother's like, no, he wouldn't abuse me. That wasn't your dad. It was him, but it wasn't him. And then it's funny, though, when Emma gets this call of distress after failing to do an audition properly, because Italian Anthony Perkins, thank God you're here. Who was that agent, that is, and why did he look like Anthony Perkins after he died? Sorry to that actor if he happens to be, watching this. Penelope Sangiori, I'm sorry if I got that wrong. Miss Penelope, she is quite lovely, I will say that. We must go back to Italy, and then Seba, her boyfriend, says, okay, I'll go with you. I guess their apartment's just rented for the next few months, and they could just do that. But mother says don't go home. Okay, I won't. Okay, let's go home. It's a nice rustic, cool area, and also there's a typewriter that said help. Apparently they're a big Beatles fan. They love that movie. The funniest thing about this is the house actually has technology from like the 1950s and 60s, well, maybe 70s because there were cassette tapes. Or maybe it was 80. But the whole point is it has such old technology, yet there are smartphones, so it was a bit jarring. I mean, obviously it was taking place in present time. There was a strange chime to the washer and dryer. It's almost like a tea was, being, it's like tea time, do, and I'm sorry, but the frickin' jump scare sounds, all that bullshit was ridiculous. She listened to some old tapes when she used to sing because she lost her confidence. She's hearing what her dad said. And then the radio, be quiet, he can hear you. It's got atmosphere. Unfortunately, that's all the movie has, what I noted. They repeated the opening scene with Emma, and that is where the movie lost me. I'm like, no. The scene didn't work all that well to begin with, and come on, we didn't like the scene the first time, to quote that MST3K episode, but nevertheless. Then she's listening later to all this stuff, while Seba has gone out, by the way, to go get some food, and then his bike gets stolen, and he has to walk back from this food truck. Where did the person get his bike from? Or where did the person take his bike? Because that person, I believe, they were either part of the food truck or they were just some homeless person. I don't know. They were vagrant. They were a plot convenience, whatever they were. But he has to walk back because he decided, not speaking any Italian, I'll go out and get the food. Not sending the woman out, or maybe, hey, let's both go out and get the food. No, let's not do that. Then he's walking home. She can't get out because all the windows are locked because ghost and plot convenience. She's listening to this creepy voice that says, what do you want? Kill you. Okay, Mussolini. Sorry, Italian people, to happen to be watching this, because there are great Italian movies. This isn't one of them. And then Seba somehow gets in the house, then gets knocked out, and is fine because she she manages to find his phone by chiming him. We can't make noise because he'll hear us. And then she writes on a notepad, we can't speak. Okay, don't speak. I know just what you're saying. God, you're provoking me with these references, movie. And then they turn up the static to annoy people, possibly the viewers. And then a little girl shows Emma the way. Because it turns out that Seba actually isn't Seba. That's him possessed by the male ghost of the whole operation. And we get a flashback of a girl, a mother. The actress who played the mother actually was also quite lovely. And a dad that was in World War II. See, or World War I. It's really, honestly, hard to tell where we were going. I think it was World War II. But we have to play the quiet game because Dad can't hear these noises. Because he can't hear the noises, he doesn't want to hear their voices, and eventually he ends up killing them. Because why not? Because that's how we get that. This was all encompassed in about 5 to 7 minutes, and might have actually made a decent movie on its own. Daddy doesn't like noises, so we have to be quiet. And because he's Italian and evil, therefore, because he was in the World War II phase, he decides to kill them. But she stabs him. Too many pronouns, pal. Sorry, Vince McMahon. But the daughter stabs him, so there you go. And then she basically turns on all these devices to try and annoy him, the ghost that possessed Seba. And he tried to run in the soundproof studio that she was in a little bit earlier, that she used to do her recordings in with her dad. And she locks him in and uses Bluetooth stuff. Apparently all that technology is connected to Bluetooth and somehow turns it on. And it's like Supersonic Man, only done worse. Another Italian movie, by the way. Supersonic Man, that was ridiculous. And it annoys him, but not enough to where he can't break out of the glass. Off camera, because they couldn't afford that shot, apparently. And then they get up to the attic. He's choking her. Seba's choking Emma, that is. And suddenly the ghosts show up because she turns on the radio. Oh, you can't stand their voices. And then they all scream in silence. Literally, that is what they do. But they scream for so long, you're thinking they would have died. They would have passed out. They would have at least had a stroke. And everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine suddenly. The dad leaves. Ettore. I don't know what the hell his name is. It's spelled Ettore. And her and Seba are fine. The dad and mom are fine. They go back to the U.S. They're fine. She nails the audition. She's got a great contract going, apparently. And, because mind you, this ends with, that stuff ends with the ghost with about 10 minutes left in the movie. You could have done 5 minutes and you would have been fine. This movie should have been 5 minutes and it probably would have been better. But then the parents decide to put all this stuff out, for sale, and then this guy picks up the radio. Why didn't you smash the radio to pieces? Why didn't you take the radio and burn it out in the yard? Or out in the countryside or something like that? What was the ghost of the dad going to do? Possess a goddamn bush? And then this guy, just who was riding his bike, walks his bike and walks with the radio to this pawn shop. Beautiful woman owning the pawn shop, by the way. Pawn art shop, and she gives him 10 whatever. And then takes it. And then there's this portrait of this woman that I actually wasn't sure if it was the woman that was the wife before or a woman that was very, very evil. I'm not. All I know is that a woman that was apparently very evil because the radio ends up being operational and this ghost comes out and is frightening her and everything. And then I said at the end, I said, oh, okay. I said, watch. Oh, now the hands are going to pull her into the painting. And then the hands pull her into the painting. I go, I was kidding. I was fucking kidding. How dare you, Sound of Silence? How dare you prove me right with my predictions? I'm sorry, but even though this movie had potential F, it gets an F. The atmosphere cannot overcome the fact that this movie was not good. The execution was bad, the story wasn't very good, and there you go. That's all I gotta say right there. It's unfortunate because the effort was there, but the execution was terrible. So agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rentlin. I'll see you soon.